welcome back, and we'll turn it over to this evening's panelists. Josephine?
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for being here tonight, and Mark for organizing all of this and supporting. What a beautiful documentary. I'm lucky to have seen it at one of its premieres in Willerton, and it was very special, and I'm so happy to see it again. There's so much to learn. I thought I could start by asking about your relationship to Cathy and Harry. And, you are a collaborative couple making a documentary about another collaborative creative couple. Cathy, you said something in the film, creative people have to find each other. That's true. And so how did you find each other?
How did we find them?
How did you find them? Or you find them?
There was a girlfriend before me who grew up with Cathy. That's how Daniel met Cathy and Harry.
Ooh, no, she didn't grow up.
Allison.
Allison, no, she went out with someone before Daniel that went to high school.
See, we go back.
Long time ago.
It's all about sex.
So Daniel met Cathy and Harry first, and then a year later, maybe, I don't know, something years ago.
Yeah.
We're not young.
Time is such a theme in both of your work and also in the film, too. When did you decide to make this?
It took us a couple of years.
Not to decide. Daniel said, wouldn't they make a good subject? There was no question.
Right. I was thinking about it as I watched it this time. I have lots of very good friends, some of whom are in the room. I haven't made movies about all of them. Oh, I probably should. But these two have been an inspiration to me for a long time. And I was trying to figure out why that was, and it seems to me they wanted and want a meaningful life. They want a life that means something. And they've worked really hard to try to get there. And maybe it's not even easier, but maybe if it's more understandable if you're an artist, but lots of people try to do that. I thought to focus on these guys who I'm in an ongoing conversation with is to talk about how you can have a life that means something to you and hopefully to other people. I find this little movie inspirational. I find them inspirational. So that's why I wanted to do it.
So it started maybe in 2020. And we always visited, but we visited with this on our mind for about 2 years, editing a bit all the while, and then editing seriously maybe a year ago.
It didn't change our conversations much, did it? I mean, we talk this way all the time. Every once in a while, Harry would go, is it rolling, Bob? Is the camera on? But mostly that wasn't, and Marta did it with her cell phone. So it's like, she has the evidence right here. So it wasn't intrusive. It was like, here we were having lunch again. There's a little camera running.
And I have lots of friends, but there are very few that I would have allowed to do this. And I think if you're lucky, occasionally you'll meet someone, and I remember the first time I met Daniel, and consequently Marta later on, and I don't know, the thing that happened that was special is that it took 3 seconds for us to be able to talk to them. And it wasn't something gradual. It was, we got to know each other more and more and more as we lived. But and when Marta joined, I don't know why it was so easy. I've never been able to understand that. It was like we were in lockstep. Not that we always agreed about things, but that we were in a conversation immediately that we agreed that we should have, and we were more honest with one another than I have been with most people. I mean, I try to be honest, but I often think that you people must be doing that, because I have lots of friends that I love, but that thing doesn't happen. And I don't know if we've ever talked about this film, but it's really true that it wasn't that I trusted that you wouldn't hurt my feelings with the film, but that I trusted that you would try to get at some kind of truth, that you wouldn't go for the cheap shot, you would try to keep working it until you got to something that was meaningful. And I don't know if everybody would have done that, but I'm trying to figure it out right now. But I know that this is true. I know that something, it was immediate. It was immediate, and it was friendship, love at first sight. That's pretty much what it was.
The picture of your cat might be a cheap shot.
Well, yeah, but it's in her contract.
She had to be in the show.
She did.
I will say that I don't think up to this point I've ever actually thanked you guys for making this film about us. I don't think I've ever even said that. And not only do I appreciate it, but I'm honored that you guys wanted to do this and did this. So this was my chance to proclaim that.
Honored in my case, and horrified simultaneously. It's not easy to sit there and watch yourself be very old. That's the hard part.
Is there earlier footage of the two of you? I mean, we saw some
Not by
photograph.
them.
Not by them, but we saw some photographs of you two. And Harry, you're such an archivist as an artist. I mean, do you have video footage of the two of you?
Not lots of photographs.
Right.
I mean, zillions of
course.
photographs. And I have all these myriad photo projects. And one is called Groups, thus me videoing you guys. And one is called Self-Portraits, thus that picture of me in the photo booth. And one is called Visitors, which is everybody who comes to the house. So every time anyone comes to our house, including Marta and Daniel, I would document it and take a photograph. And, but I don't really have, and strangely enough, within what I just said in this film, Catherine does not like to be photographed. And because I do this group project, and I decided, I'm going on too long already, I decided groups were 3 people and can't be 2 people. When we'd be out in the world and we'd bump into friends and there would be 2 of them, Cathy would always have to be the 3rd person. So I will say that she's been very patient with being documented, but not film. I don't have really, this is the most film ever of us. We had a small part in another film, documentarian made about getting old and dying, and it was a little part. But basically, there's not very much film of us together until really now.
What's so special is the conversation, that it is a very specific, as any couple has or friends over time, that kind of banter and building off of each other's thoughts and in a way, your work, I suppose, is the
Absolutely.
reservoir for all of those conversations. The ones with your friends that you showed us early on too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of my favorite parts about this documentary is how you really capture the conversation, and obviously you're part of it because of your enduring relationship with Cathy and Harry.
That's the part that's missing from this film, is actually when we have a real conversation, we're not the only people talking. And one of the reasons this conversation, I mean, Harry and I talk all the time. Our art is intertwined, our lives are intertwined. He's my best friend. I think I'm his best friend. But in fact, Daniel is the person asking questions that you don't hear. And I will say you're a smooth operator in the fact that you keep it going in a very particular way. And you direct it as well. So with such gentleness. Nevertheless, you are bringing it one place or another. If you find that if something isn't resolved, you try to help it be resolved. And so you don't see that happening, but that is happening.
Well, two things. One is I'm not taking it in one direction for the film.
No.
I'm taking it in one direction because I want to
Exactly.
know. Yeah,
Exactly.
I want to know, wait a second, why'd you start painting realistically, or whatever my question is.
Right.
The second thing is that Marta, as editor and co-director, was the one who made sure that we weren't in it. That she did a very good job of having this. One of the things we wanted to make sure was that you guys were the people telling the story, not us. And to do it in your words, not to have captions or, talking heads, other people.
Which meant sometimes, in post, cutting himself out of the frame. And sometimes I'm sure you see the same blue coat or the arm reaching, but sometimes I would take the footage and blow it up so that he disappeared.
I think we got to hear a little bit of your voice in the very last scene. Yeah, that was
I think.
okay.
In the end,
When I'm encouraging you
Yes.
there.
Well, we'd love to have questions from the audience. Mark has a microphone to hand around.
don't be shy.
Don't be shy.
There's someone not shy.
Hi, thank you. I'm curious if you learned anything about yourself from this project.
Oh, that's such a hard question.
All of us.
I know, but there's 4 or 5, or even watching it, or
Something I didn't know. We're not talking about levels of hatred of ourselves, are we? Because that's, that's easy to come by. No, I don't know. I learned that my voice can be very annoying. I've always thought it was lovely, but I don't know if it is anymore.
I think one of the things that's true about old folks, I mean, of course, we learn new things and maybe sometimes even about them ourselves, but part of what you're seeing is people who've thought a lot about what they do and why they do it and what their relationship is to each other and I suppose to the people off camera. So I think it's not a revelation most of the time. Well, I mean, certainly the movie is new, but the conversations were not usually revelatory to you or to us, nor were they, I've heard this a million times. But it's people with more confidence and who've asked a lot of questions already. So forgive me if I don't say, I learned stuff about filmmaking maybe, but I don't know about it myself.
And this learning often happens in little bits. It's not like, wow, this is who I am, this is what I do. It's kind of week to week, month to month, year to year, little things come to clarity. And so, apropos of what Marta said, these conversations between us and them have been going on for years. And Marta was very discreet with the filming, so it often felt very everyday as far as conversations. We did learn how much we loved having Marta and Daniel come over.
That's true.
And so one of the nice things about the film, it was an excuse to see them like all the time.
I loved it.
And if you notice, the table is often set for 4, which is a giveaway that we weren't sitting there by ourselves just talking, and that there was an unseen presence.
You know how when you go to college or even younger and your friends are around you all the time? It's like, my friends lived down the street from me and we saw each other all the time. And then college, you make these really good friends because you're all living together and it's like, and then that goes away. And then, it really, you get to see your friends occasionally, but even if you care about them, life is busy. You have things to do and you got to do your work and all that stuff. And so this was like there was kind of a youngness about it, which I did love. It was like, oh, great, they're coming again. It's really good. And it was so, and we were working on a project that, although, I was very nervous about even doing it because I don't like being self-conscious about myself, and particularly, I mean, I don't mind talking about my work, but to get down into the real nitty-gritty of doing work and why I'm doing work, sometimes it's kind of private. So I thought, oh God, but it was worth it 100% because we were making something together. And this is not the first time they've made something together. They once collaborated on a piece called Soft Cell.
Me, Marta, and Daniel.
And I just thought they were all crazy. I went, oh God, we'll never be friends again. This is awful, because you fight. And so it's terrible. But this was different. I mean, this was a true group effort. It looks like just us, but it really isn't.
I'll get back to two things. You have questions you're trying to answer with the truth, but you're not prepared necessarily. Even though we've done this a couple of times, I should be prepared. I just realized something I did learn from this film about myself, but it was, maybe I don't know if I think of it from the film as much as from the filming. Because like when Catherine pointed out something about my relationship to my work and irony, I hadn't thought about that before. And even in the film, I said, oh. And so, yes, I did learn something, and I don't think it would have happened if you weren't filming, because it engendered from you guys and certain questions and certain conversation that we then partook in. So, yes, and I'm sure there are other little things like that, but it was as much from the filming, which I guess is the film, and what Catherine just said reminded me of a funny story. So we collaborated on a dance theater piece called Soft Cell, and I think we made something really good. Sometimes it was smooth, sometimes it was very tense, but when we started, Catherine said to Marta and Daniel, don't do this, you don't really know what he's like. And it turned out to have a little truth, because there was a certain tension, and I come off as, easy and fluid, but when I get focused on something, I'm like vehement. So in some ways, I'm not that easy to work with. And so that warning has always stayed with me as something both humorous and, unfortunately, with some truth.
I was like Minerva, don't do this.
Right.
And, we learned some things about each other, and they probably learned things about me that they didn't want to know.
But they made something so beautiful. I as the person not involved with it, I was wrong, they were right. It was worth it. It was beautiful. So,
I think put my 2 cents, I'm going to double back on what I said before. Watching the movie, which I've now done many times, this sense of people trying to figure out a meaningful way to live and to make sense. I realize as I look at the movie that I think more and more it's also an act of resistance. It's like, fuck you, I'm going to actually enjoy myself and do what I want to do here. And it's hard work, and it doesn't always work, but it's I look at the movie and I go, oh yeah, this is people fighting back in a way. For decades, in a society and a culture that doesn't really want you to do this.
It's kind of cushy now, let me just say. The studios, the space, but it wasn't cushy all the time.
Right.
no.
And I often wonder, when we were young and started out, Catherine and I, we met in art school. Then we got out of school, it was the late 60s. We were idealistic. Being totally broke and doing what you wanted was almost like pridefully, a badge of courage. And then, I taught for a long time, and our lives went quite well. I got a teaching job. We had careers. We have a house, and actually at one screening, someone said, your house needs a paint job, but it has gotten a paint job since then, actually.
Don't worry about it.
But not because of that. And so I often would wonder, and maybe sometimes would say to a student if one's life came up that we were not miserable being poor, but when I was 55, 60, 65, maybe if we were struggling quite as much, I might not have been so jolly about it. You know, so it's hard to know when things play out how it's going to affect your relationship to living.
I have a question for y'all, but it's only, I suppose, for the people who heard Cathy and Harry speak last night. How was this the same, or how was it different? Or, you know, I kept going, stop saying that, you're going to say it in the movie. But it was, you know, do you have anything to say about that? If you don't, somebody else can ask the question.
No, that's okay. We'll get you later.
That's it. Yeah, because I was worried. Oh, good. Good. Go ahead.
I think this kind of parlays in from Emily's question. It's very apparent in the film that like irony and earnestness and all of these things are present in your practices and in your relationship. And I also wonder how humor plays into your relationship and painting and teaching and all of these things. Anyone?
What fits in?
Humor, how humor
Humor,
plays.
yes.
Oh, humor.
Oh, we laugh a lot.
I was just going to say the exact same
In
thing.
fact, you know,
We joke, we laugh.
I mean, I
call
think
it the Cathy and Harry show.
yes,
You know
yes.
this, don't you?
Yes, we call it the Cathy and Harry show, and I had a wonderful friend named Billy Finn who said, "You two should be on the radio." I didn't take his advice. I should have taken his advice and been on the radio. No, we laugh a lot. We cry a lot. I mean, the interesting thing about this movie is we talk about misery, but you don't see us miserable. And what happens with artists is...
But we are never miserable.
Oh, yeah, right. But what happens with artists is, and this is, I think, a condition of an artist often, which is you think this moment is all that there is. I mean, it's like, I'm never, like when I was saying, I'm never going to paint again. I mean, I mean that. It's not, you know, I make a joke about it, but truly, I think the world is coming to an end at least once a day. And that doesn't show up in the film, which is good because I think I'm absurd and I think that's ridiculous. But we find each other funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And clearly we don't have fights in front of the camera.
Oh, no, we don't. Yeah,
and
right.
once in a while we do have disagreements.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So it's a truth,
Right.
but not the whole story, I guess you would say. And we
Yeah, we'll show you
would
the
wait till they
outtakes.
left to have a fight. We
Yes,
wouldn't do it when they were there.
There are outtakes, partly because you wouldn't fight in front of them.
It's true.
Right. I also think, and take this correctly, I also think the work is funny often. So, you know, when Harry, well, I don't know, when Harry certainly animates the Chinese photographs, there's something kind of goofy and great. What you said at the beginning, goofy, intelligent, goofy,
Right.
you know, that thing.
Right.
And Cathy, I mean, you know, the painting of the polka dot dress coming at you as a waterfall, I mean, it makes me giggle as well as think it's beautiful. So I think they've been able to incorporate humor into what they do, which is spectacular, I think. And it shows a kind of confidence in what you're doing that you can, you know, make it funny and people will still take it seriously.
I like to use the word wit.
Wit.
Yes, which, you know, because, you know, you don't laugh, you know, fall down. Although
Harry's got the guy going,
yeah, well, yes,
Okay,
well,
that was a funny moment.
that's a funny
For
moment.
those of you who saw the talk.
That's true.
Well, you're different that way.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we've got a Marx brother and Dorothy Parker here. You know, I mean, it's a different kind of humor, I think.
This is true. This is true.
Well, I can say one thing about humor too is, and maybe my students have heard me say this, but I always think humor, you know, has a great potential to exist in the space between what you expect something to be and what actually is. And I think both of your work really deals with
Yes,
perception,
that's
where
right.
you're looking so hard at something,
Right.
and you're trying to figure out what it is you're seeing. And so there's this you know, wrestling with your expectations of what reality is, and then what your own perception is.
And trying to understand what reality is. It's very, I mean, that's my life's work. It's trying to actually understand it. It's fluid.
I will say a lot of my new joking concerns death.
Yes.
It's a very funny subject.
It's a very Jewish tradition to joke about death when you're getting closer to it and facing it. But I find that humor about the end coming is very satisfying and very helpful in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Harry, you say in the film that when you were younger, you thought you had forever. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
But it still strikes me that you do. I mean,
He
Cathy,
does. He does think he
and
has
you too,
forever.
Cathy, because you said, you know, every day there's like the end of, you know, the
Yeah.
end of things. There's a crisis, and it really is all consuming, which is proof that you are really in that moment.
I honestly feel that's the great thing that I have learned in living is I did not know that, which I hate to use the word gift, but the gift is that I still want to think about this. I mean, that I still am entirely consumed by making work, and that it keeps coming. I keep on thinking, it's gonna have to dry out, and it doesn't. And it's so amazing to me, and it's such, you know, it's really, and so there's something worth living for. And so as long as that keeps coming to me, as long as I keep getting that, I will soldier on. You know?
And in some ways, you almost have to proceed with your work as if you do still
Absolutely.
have forever.
Absolutely.
So you are brave enough to start things that may take a year or 2 years.
Right.
And at that moment, forever is a reality, even though it's false.
And Mozart, how old was Mozart when he died? I mean, like 26 or something? I don't know. You know, it's time. All we get is time and space. And that's what painting is about. It's time and space. And that's all we get. That's you're lucky. How much you get is lucky or unlucky, but that's all it is.
I know you have more questions.
That was a cheerful
There's
couple of notes.
I know. Talk about something else.
Hello, can you hear me? Great. Just going off of kind of what you were saying about the idea of wanting to live a meaningful life and kind of going through that process through living, and the movie dealing so much with time and us talking about time and death and all these big time related things. I wonder, you know, for all the panelists, how your relationship with decision making has changed over time. So like when you were a lot younger and buying kind of about to fall down barns, what kind of drove you to make that decision and put in that work? And how do you keep making decisions about what work and what things you want to do?
You guys are asking two questions that are too hard and too big. I did want to, you know, how many people were at my talk yesterday? Okay, this is just for you. I retrospectively, like we all do, say, oh, you know what I should have said? Oh, you know, I missed. And Josephine said, do I have advice for the students? And I said things I thought were reasonable and not always cheery, but I will say that what I didn't say is gather a community, have friends that you relate to, that you're interested in what they do, they're interested in what you do, and hold on to that, because whatever gets really hard about being an artist in the world and making your way, there's such solace in that personal friendship, peer interaction. So that's retrospectively from yesterday what I should have said.
In terms of decision making, for me, I notice that as I have gotten a little older, when I was young, I would put a glass there by the edge, and I go, well, that's interesting. That might fall over, and it'll be a mess, and I'll have to clean it up. But, you know, let's see what happens. As I get older, I kind of go, I don't want to spend the time cleaning that up. I think I'll put it back in the middle of the table and go on to doing something else. I think it's probably good, younger, to say, well, let's see what happens when it falls off the table. And then at some point you go, well, I've kind of learned that. I want to focus and go ahead.
Yeah, I still have to learn that, I think.
We have time for 2 more questions. Yes.
The mic is coming.
Mike is coming.
1 second. We got one back there.
It got way late.
Sorry.
Sorry, my question was actually about community, because I do feel like something that's so saturated about this experience is the importance of community from your friendship. And I wondered if there was ever a time where you felt like you had a lack of community in your life, and like if there's any remedy to that, or if you feel like that's always been kind of a driving presence.
What'd she say?
Have you ever had a lack of community? And
Right now, people are dropping like flies. And so, in fact,
back to death.
Back to death. Yeah. But, in fact, one of the things that's great about hooking up with somebody who you share ideas with is that we're pretty much self-sufficient. And we love it when we have a community to talk to.
That's bigger.
But it's bigger. But really and truly, we've been feeding off each other for almost 60 years now. And I don't know Daniel and Marta did try to let you see how connected we were. And when we were very young, and just out of school, we'd say, oh, and that was my idea. And he goes, no, that was my idea. And we don't do that anymore. It's sort of like a full-time collaboration. Although our work is very different, we share language. And that's sustained us, even when we've been really alone and in the situations that were really isolated and very hard, and some really hard and messy situations, but we had each other, and that's been miraculous. That's miraculous. That's miraculous. People are always saying, "Oh, I would tell my 14-year-old self to be good to yourself." I would tell my 14-year-old self, "You're not going to believe the miracle that's going to happen to you," because I would say that many artists do share this other characteristic, which is lots of times we had young lives, where we were very lonely and very much alone and very much what we thought to be entirely misunderstood. And to find somebody who actually understands you, that's truly a miracle.
So a community could be 2 people?
Yes, exactly.
And Liz wanted to ask something? She's not a plant.
I might be a plant. Full disclosure. No, I was going to kind of catty corner on the conversation about community. And, we're talking about kind of artist communities, but listening to your conversations in the movie and just having known you as a student, experiencing, the pedagogy and I think so many of the way that I think about art have been shaped by being in Harry's class at a formative, at a young age. And I'm just thinking about artist communities, like this infrastructure on the Eastern Seaboard, I feel like, and beyond. So many artists have been touched by both of your learning, your pedagogy, your interest in their work. And I just think that kind of has spawned a community that's much larger than just your kitchen. And in fact, like art as we know it.
Absolutely.
In the contemporary scene. And that's just what's been so. My
friendship with Josephine is, I have to say, over the years, and Harry has too, I feel like there's a small army of wonderful students that I've had they might have been touched by me, but in fact, I was equally touched by them. Not that Josephine was my student, but just that she is younger people in the world of art that I have had relationships with, that's pretty fabulous too. And a conversation does ensue. Sometimes we don't even need to, we only have to look at each other's work and we understand that we're having the same conversation, or not the same conversation, but different aspects of a conversation that we can rely on to help sustain us.
And that teaching is so much conversation. It's not only the person in front of the room, metaphorically.
Oh, certainly not teaching art.
Spewing stuff,
Yeah.
but it's the back and forth. It's the conversation. And sometimes that goes on the rest of everyone's life.
Right.
Not always, but sometimes. And people keep in touch and you have an ongoing conversation.
And personally, I'm having an ongoing conversation with Velasquez. And so,
Well,
it's not like I can't talk to dead people, because I do.
I was just going to say, when you talked about Chardin,
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking, that's so funny, because I've also talked to Chardin. And so many of us have, and I think to Emma's
That's
question earlier about community too, I mean, at the worst of times, at the loneliest I've ever been, you're going into a museum, know, and then later to find out, actually, Cathy was looking at the same Chardin, and it feels like there is something so enduring.
Absolutely.
And it's so nice that Chardin always agrees with you.
Yeah, yes. This is very nice. One of my favorite things is there's a wonderful painting of that Rubens did of Bruegel the Elder. They were friends. Blew my mind. It blew my mind. It was like, these are two artists that we don't put together in our minds. It was just, it's a cool thing.
Well, I think we've got to leave it there. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.